A cookie store employee pays for an on-duty cop's cookie. The person behind him in line was not very satisfied seeing what I would imagine he perceived as a race soldier getting a free cookie. So we'll take a look at the full story, because would you imagine buying somebody's cookie was racist? Well, this person gets accused of that for buying a cop a cookie. According to the Houston Chronicle, VKC Refreshments, which owns and operates Great American Cookies, released a statement apologizing for the decision. On behalf of Great American Cookies Katie Mills, we owe the employee an apology. It was never an issue that he purchased a brownie for the police officer, but rather the events that unfolded with another customer in line at the time, said Bijou George. So it was a brownie, not a cookie, apparently. However, after further review, we realized that the employee was in fact in the right, and we continued to reach out to him and his mom to issue an apology. The corrective action and suspension was reversed immediately, and we hope to connect with him today. The story went viral over the weekend after the employee's mother aired her concerns over Facebook. My son works at Katie Mills Mall, and on Sunday evening, an on-duty police officer walked up to the counter and placed his order. My son offered to pay for his cookie with his own money. The officer was grateful, said thank you, and walked away. The next family walked up and said, "Are you going to buy mine too?" My son replied with a, "I'm sorry, I bought his because he's wearing a badge." Then this customer started verbally attacking him, calling my son a racist, and threatened to beat him up. His wife threatened to go back there and slap him. The middle-aged man sat down his little daughter and tried to come behind the counter to attack him. Thankfully, his co-worker diffused the situation. The man said, "I want to get you fired." As soon as the man started to attack my son, he stepped back and walked away. He said very little to this man. On Sunday, he received a text stating that he was to bring all of his stuff the next day for a meeting with his manager and upper manager. Tuesday, he walks in with all of his stuff. He is told the upper managers want him fired. Thankfully, his manager refused and said that he was an excellent worker and that everyone agreed that he did nothing wrong. The day before the situation, he was offered a $2 an hour raise and management. He then started his normal scheduled shift. He worked 2 to 3 hours when he was called into the back room where she had written him up. It says he bought a cookie for a police officer and a customer wanted to physically fight him. It does state, if this happens again, he will be terminated. Then she stated, after today's shift, you will be on a 1-week suspension. Really? He did finish off his shift that night. Since when does buying a police officer a cookie give anyone a reason to attack someone? And when did a corporation want to fire someone for being kind? Taking what a customer said or did, regardless of how hateful they are. Great American Cookie Company, you failed on this one. Thankfully, my son said he would do it again in a heartbeat. I don't think it's too much of a stretch of the imagination to say that this customer that accused this man of being a racist because he bought a police officer a cookie, it's very likely that this customer was a person of color. And it's also very likely that they belong to a certain organization that hates police officers. Some of them even call police officers race officers or race soldiers. That's it. So, to me, I think it's very obvious that this was either A, a black man, or B, a devout member of Black Lives Matter. At least if they hate police so much that they want to get a kid fired from his job because he bought a cookie for a civil servant. It's not cool to like police officers, and it's actually cool to hate police officers, which is why on Reddit, just about any given day, anytime anybody gets shot by a police officer, it immediately goes to the front page and everyone's convinced that this evil race soldier hunted this man down in the streets, when really it's typically just a very tragic misunderstanding. And as far as cops being evil, there's one thing that helps grow a community, and that's being engaged and feeling appreciated. One thing that will lead to less terrified police officers, and what I mean by terrified is they are justified in feeling that their life is threatened constantly. If you want to make things easier, what you would do is show goodwill to them. maybe buy them a cookie every once in a while. Not saying this is going to immediately make the world a more peaceful place, but it will make people feel more welcome. And on a small scale, if you continue this type of behavior where you're kind and polite and treat even police officers like they're members of your community, you might be surprised at how their behavior will change over time. Now, it's not going to be something that changes overnight. This cop's not going to eat that cookie and go home, call all of his buddies, say, hey, we need to start being good to people. But he's going to think to himself, hey, there's good people out there. Small acts of kindness like this are remembered. And it's, well, the little things that matter. I think it's really important for people to remember that. So just doing something small that's kind for another human being is beneficial to everybody in the long run. And yes, I'm aware that some police officers suck. I've seen one or two myself in my life, but in my opinion, I wouldn't even say they're a necessary evil. They're just necessary. Because I don't believe police officers are inherently evil or good. They're just people with a job to do. They're firefighters, but for the chaotic nature of humanity rather than nature itself. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. I don't have much to say on this topic because this is yet another situation that's fairly straightforward. I think most of us will draw the same conclusion from this. But let me know what you think about this story in the comments section, and I will see you all later.
You lack imagination, Destro. We possess the ultimate weapon of control. People trust television. It's their friend. They believe what television tells them about the news, the weather, or G.I. Joe. Don't you see? We control the creation of truth.